Okay, everybody. We're back, and we're live, and we have got one of NA's premier Counter-Strikers, which I know I say that normally about everybody, but seriously this time, we've got one of NA's premier Counter-Strikers here. We've got Collin CoJoMo Moren. Collin, how are you doing today?
Oh man, I'm doing fabulous. I'm excited to do this interview with you and just have a good time.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm glad we'll hopefully make it as fun as hell here. Well, let's dive right into it. How young were you when you got started playing Counter-Strike? Like what are your earliest memories of Counter-Strike?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe I was 16 when I got involved with Counter-Strike, and the only early memories I have from the game is just me being an awful player, thousands of hours just doing nothing and not understanding any idea of like competitive CS, Team CS. So we've come a long way from there.
You certainly have. Now you're literally top of the region, internationally known. What was the transit like? What talk us through the transition from like being those thousands of hours of just grinding, no matter how bad you are, just loving the game to the competitive player you are today.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of it I do credit to the team environment, the team system. Obviously, ESEA used to be, the crutch of the region, so vital, the lifeline for us, and nowadays it still is. So, one, playing Team CS got me into it. I got very lucky. I was very blessed with the initial players that I played with on my first open team. Really opened my eyes to everything I needed to do in order to make it in the scene. But ultimately, too, it just came from within. I'm a very competitive person. I started to get like I guess addicted to the grind of the game and seeing how even small little improvements that you can make snowball into something bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's been a long journey. It's been a long process, but ultimately there's no game like it. So I started to figure out pretty early on that I was really loving this, but you just have to have the mindset. You have to have the intention to get better, and generally your results will follow from that.
Yeah, they will. And I like what you said. There's something special about Counter Strike. What is it that makes Counter Strike so special above any other esport? Because it's like I know everybody loves their esports, right? But it's something about like Counter Strikers are particularly passionate about Counter Strike over other esports. It feels like.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few things that go into it, and I respect everyone else that plays other games that would die on a hill for their title as well. For me, what just drives home for Counter Strike is everybody has the same chance in the game. There's no abilities, there's no like special characters. Obviously, you're gonna have different roles with an opera and stuff like that, but inherently, it is a very fair game when it comes to that. For me, also, because that's just part of it, was the economic factor of the game. I love thinking about managing your economy, what weapon to buy, what we should do here. Should we save? Should we go for it? And man, it's just like right up my alley when it comes to that stuff. So I just love the strategical appeal that Counter Strike brings.
Yeah, I think the economy isn't something that's talked about very very often in the fact that like as a spectator, the economy allows you to get a little story for each round as you're going into it. So, yeah, I think you nailed it on the head there. Um, when did you start playing Counter Strike professionally?
Yeah, I mean that's a little bit of a gray area. We still don't even know as like spectators or players what professional even means. I mean I've been in FPL, so Face It Pro League individually for 3, 4 years at this point, probably three and a half, on and off. So I guess you could mark that as professional time. As far as Team CS, again, it's kind of a gray area. I've been in ECL on and off for 2 years now, 2.5 years, I believe. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's different for everybody, but I've been in the upper echelons of the North American scene in some sort of way for I'd say 3 years.
Okay. Well, I'd say FPL is a good marker. It's called the
Mhm.
Face It Pro League, not the Face It Amateur League. So
Fair
I
enough.
think that works for me. And then you've been doing coaching and content creation for a while as well. When did you know that was like how did you transition from player to doing that as well?
Yeah, so I mean that goes hand in hand with who I was. I told you at the beginning, I'm that player that had thousands of hours not knowing what I wanted to do. So, as much as I love competing, as much as I love being that role in this scene, I always feel like I have a bigger purpose. And I have an ability to do more than just be that player. I want to help guide others. I want to teach other players things that I wish I would have known. So I think after competing in ECL for a few seasons, I started to understand that I wanted to make that shift, and I've pretty much been doing that full time since November. So it feels like a long time. I've worked with hundreds of players at this point, but we're still just getting started with all the coaching stuff, and I'm looking to roll it out even bigger and bigger, and just really help people understand what they need to do in order to make their dreams come true as well.
Well, and that leads me into my next question, which is a little bit more of an open-ended question. So feel free to kind of just ramble with it if you like. But I mean, we need more people like you, the veterans and the upper echelons, feeding back into the lower end of the system, right? We need to lift our floor up in our region, right? What do you think are some of the glaring elements and not so glaring elements of North America specifically that and there's no right or wrong answer here. Obviously, I do want to clarify, we all knew what the answer was, we'd probably not be here, but I definitely want to hear what your thoughts on it are.
Yeah, so the first thing is that I see a lot of people attacking NACS, and this is the problem, that's the problem, and you're spot on. The thing that we first need to recognize is we're all part of this issue, we're all part of this problem. I get so tired of seeing people acting like they're not part of this issue and they're above everything else. Here's the thing. Everyone has a million solutions for, oh, we need more prize for the top players. We need to do this for the top players. We need to do this. But then one, they're not willing to share their information. They're not willing to build that floor because all they see value in is the players that are already established, right? So people get way too laser focused on that. Whereas I feel like we need to build the culture of our entire region up for Counter-Strike. I've been blessed enough to be in Europe and play in a European tournament over there. And it's just everyone loves Counter-Strike. They just live Counter-Strike. It's insane. If we're not focused on building the casual scene up, the floor, the people that are going to be watching, buying merchandise, doing all this stuff, how are we ever going to expect opportunity from organizations in our scene? What value are we actually putting out there for anyone, right? You can't increase salaries, you can't bring more tournaments, you can't sell more things if you're not, one, creating that content in your own way, and two, encouraging others that are going to eventually be our next generation, our next wave of players as well.
You're an incredibly well-spoken person, and I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, I agree. It is a cultural problem. I think there's a lot of stuff that's going to take time and a lot of effort from many different facets to fix, and we got to stop being so laser focused on just what's happening at the tippy top of it. So, yeah, well said. Thank you for that. Damn it, I had another question lined up in my head right there from that, but let me ask this. Oh yeah, I remember. Here we go now. Let me ask you as a player, because you mentioned in there that like eventually, obviously, we're going to need more tournaments. EU obviously has a very giant tournament circuit over there, so that gives a lot more opportunities. How do you as a player feel about VRS now that we're about 5 months into it? Like, what are the ups and downs of that for you?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is I actually transitioned more into the coaching scene and the YouTube content full time in that way as soon as they actually implemented that system. So I personally have not felt the effects of that as a player, but it's been pretty interesting to look at and watch. Um, I'm hesitantly positive about it. I think that, I have faith in Valve. I believe that it could be a good system, but ultimately I would be kind of just guessing if I were to tell you if it was good or bad, because I haven't been in that team environment to see if it's beneficial for me or negative for, I guess, a mid-tier ECL team or even top advance. It's still to be determined from me.
Okay, that makes sense. That's honest as well. Well, then how about this? How are we feeling about this major coming up at the end? Is it the end of June? It's June 20th, right?
Yeah,
It's like
I believe so.
June 9th through 20th, whatever it is. I mean, it's going to
Mm.
start in June with like group
Yeah.
stages, but yeah. What are your thoughts? We're in North America.
Man, dude, that makes me excited. And that this is the time, by the way, if you're a content creator, if you're a player, if you're a casual, it's just anyone in the scene, this is your moment to take advantage of that and get people involved with Counter-Strike. I mean, I'm not expecting us to have another Boston major, right? But man, like this is the time to be a North American Counter-Strike player. Let's revive the scene, take advantage of it, pour everything you can into what you are doing, and you are going to feel the you're gonna reap the reward, the benefits from all of this. So, it's got me juiced up. It's got me excited. I'm ready for it.
Do you have any predictions for it? And how? And go ahead and tell us how complexity is going to take it all.
Yeah, man. I mean, I would love for Complexity to win it. That would be absolutely insane. I'm going to be supporting every North American team there is there. I don't care how realistic it is if, these players are going to win or lose. I do not care. There's something magical in this USA soil that look at G2 using Stu as a stand-in. So NA's bringing back home another major. I'm not sure what team it's going to be, but we'll hedge our bets with Complexity. Complexity will bring it back for us.
I like that. Okay, good. Uh, well, I only have a couple more questions for you here because, yeah, we've pretty much covered a lot of stuff. Unless you want to just kind of talk about movies or books or something here for a while. I don't want to. I don't want to take all your time. Um, uh, how do you feel about this simple addition to Phase for Dallas and Austin? Not necessarily that. Yeah, just how do you feel about this?
So my personal opinion is I don't know if that is the right play. Just from what I've seen from Simple and the vibe I get off of who he is as a player and a person. I obviously FaZe was gracious enough to let us see behind the scenes. That's a very rare look into like something like that. And I love that type of content. With the issues it looked like they were facing, I don't know if adding just a simple into the roster. This isn't CS:GO. This is Counter-Strike 2. It just to me, I don't think that should work. There's going to be a lot of noise. There's going to be a lot of hype around it. I think it does bring a lot of attention to FaZe, and good for them on that end. But strategically, like in game when we're playing in the server, is CS2 Simple really the player that's going to help them? I don't think so. But hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm proven wrong.
No, you keep saying opinions that are rattling around
Yeah.
in my head, and I have no like argument for you on any of these
Yeah.
things. Like
Yeah.
I I did say though that I guess to my one point to add to that would be the fact that I did say that if somehow FaZe makes it through to the stage, if they get on the stage in front of the crowd, there could be something that happens there. But
True.
I just do not. I think they're gonna 0-3
Yeah.
in groups. Frankly, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I always love exciting underdog
Mhm.
stories, and they're kind of an underdog with this whole story. But yeah. Well, okay. Normally these are like 30 to 40 minutes, but we've gotten through all my questions pretty quickly. I'm gonna come up with a couple more here while I got you.
Fair.
What is the coolest thing you've gotten to do in your Counter Strike career from your perspective?
I think by far the coolest thing I got to do was the original tournament I competed in Yasha Mania. It was so special because during that time, my social media, my TikTok, my stuff was popping off. So for about 2 weeks when I was playing in a tournament over there, it genuinely felt like you were kind of like celebrity status. And I was doing interviews for their national TV news, all kinds of stuff like that. Just great exposure, not just for me, but American CS and our game in general. So I would argue like that is probably the coolest experience, the coolest thing I've ever gotten to do in my life for this game. And to this day, that stuff just makes me so happy.
Do you have a least favorite experience that you've had in your career?
I mean, here's the thing: being a competitor, and I mean, I'm sure this is just sports, this is just life in general. A lot of times, like we see the glamorous things, we see the glory, the winning, all this stuff. Um, I'd say the least favorite thing. Actually, no, that's pretty easy. The least favorite thing is probably when my team got disqualified last season, 2 seasons ago from ESL Challenger League. That was a great time. So, yeah, I'd say that was my least favorite. As far as like competing and stuff goes, I mean, I've been pretty blessed and lucky with the teams I'm on. So, I'd say like there's been some pretty crushing land defeats. I've gotten second place in so many different lands, and all of those just they hurt you, man. You just feel hurt after them. So I just
Does
say
second
experience
place
like
feel
that.
does second place feel worse than just like losing outright from the tournament?
So yeah, so that depends. It depends on like where your team is at and what you're looking at it. Obviously, like second place is always going to sting. But say you were like an underdog that made it up, there's always a silver lining of like, oh yeah, like we weren't even supposed to be here, so this is a great tournament. Versus if you're that same underdog and you go in three, it's just like we're gonna work harder, we're gonna get better. So I've been on teams where they have that mindset, and I've also been on teams where we're supposed to win, we're supposed to do good, and then you go out in group stage and that that makes you question everything. That makes you feel so like worthless as a player, but you just got to take the lessons and learn from it. And I've generally had a decent mindset when it comes to that, and I think it's gotten me to where I am today. So I don't look on any of those losses or those experiences as bad. I think probably just that ESL disqualification is like the thing that's just the worst point in my career, I guess.
Well, and you don't. I'm not going to ask about like any details of that, but I do have a question. Like, like how do you recover from something like that? Like because at the time, I'm sure, especially when you're feeling good with all the successes that you've had, and then that kind of moment comes along, and there's like the sinking feeling. How do you deal with that? How do you recover from that?
Yeah, so I mean, one silver lining with anything is you always take lessons away. You always learn from whatever happened, good or bad, does not matter the situation. What are you going to do in the future to improve, get better? The past is what it is. You can't change it. You can't do anything differently about it. And also, if you live in the past, again, both good or bad, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. So with that situation, it sucked, but it was pretty easy for me because I still know who I am as a person and a player. So if you can just deal with like the flack of the bad decisions and the things that you've done, because there's always going to be blowback. There's going to be people either rightfully or in some cases unrightfully coming at you. If you just know who you are and you know what you're going to do going forward, it's not easy to get to recover. It's not easy to come back from that, but you believe in yourself and you know still who you are on the inside. So it's definitely sad. It's definitely bad, but again, lessons from everything. There's things to learn. There's things to grow from. So, um, yeah, I mean, even that situation. There's not many things in my career that I look back on and I just like I like I'm disappointed. I'm really sad that that happened, but I still did learn so many lessons from that. And going forward, like I have a lot of good stuff to grow from that.
Yeah, it's a very mature way of looking at it. Well, and you mentioned something as well that like sometimes like you mentioned it's something I thought of like within the team chemistry. I don't know if you talk about this as a coach or in your content, but something that I've always experienced as a player whenever I'm playing on open or with friends or even watching, high level teams at like LAN, there seems to sometimes just be a moment where communication breaks down. Like, I don't know if it's a vibes thing, but like, usually you can feel the like tension in the air. You can cut it with a knife. But
Mhm.
like, what's your advice for like teams to get over that communication breakdown? Because it seems like it can happen to anybody, and it's very detrimental to the team environment.
Yeah, so a lot of times that can be a huge momentum shifter, a momentum change as well. So my first piece of advice is very simple, very obvious. Take a timeout. That's the easiest thing you can do. Take a timeout. That's not going to make things better. That's not going to, magically fix everything, but it's going to give everyone a second to reset, cool down, chill out. A lot of times these are moments that happen after like a unlosable clutch or an unlosable round as well. So you're also helping to counter the momentum that the other team is gaining in a positive way. You're making it a little more equal as far as the scales go with that. Now, the harder part is that where we actually have to put in a little bit of work is on an individual basis. We now need to pick up the slack and communicate and get the team started in that way again. It's like your fire went out. You need to start adding little pieces of wood and start kindling that fire up again. Hey, I'm gonna flash for you here. Let's go ahead and do this setup. Very simple things that are gonna get that communication back in line. You might not have that blaze anymore, but you can at least get that fire simmering again. Um, and overall the bigger picture thing, and this is where especially in esports we are notorious for doing this awful, every single one of us is play the round in front of you. What happened in that past round is that past round. Whether you like it or not, the situation you are in is now here. Play this round. You don't worry about the round in front of you. You don't worry about the round behind you. What are we going to do this round? And that all goes hand in hand to help you become better. And I think that's why a lot of pro teams are so good, is because at least that last part where it's playing that round, they can at least do that and commit to that. Where so many players, we just struggle because we're still just like, why did he do that? You know, why did that guy peek here? He's screwing me over. We're gonna lose this game now. So at LAN, it's really tough because you're there. Everyone sees you. Your teammates are right next to you. They're hearing you in person, maybe, or they're seeing your body language. Online, it's easy. You know, my advice, whether it's good or bad, online is, guys, you can mute your mic. No one wants you to be that teammate that's sitting there and complaining and whining. And when all you got to do is mute your mic and you're good. At LAN, you got to be very mature. You got to be, you know, you got to get it out if you have to, or you got to be very transparent and straight up with people. So it's not easy. You don't want to find yourself in those situations, but at the end of the day, you got to be grown enough to kind of understand, play this round. You know, we'll talk about it after. So it's easier said than done.
I agree, but I think that's really well said. And starting with that timeout is like timeouts are such a look at timeouts as another piece of utility for your team to use and
That's
whatnot.
good.
Well, and I was gonna ask too. Do you feel like maybe that's kind of the difference in uh between like our tier 3 2 in our region to tier 1 and us compared to the global scale? Do you feel like that might be some of the issue that we face with our rosters is like inability to overcome that? Because like sometimes as a player it feels like, man, the professional organizations must just have like some deep strat book and they know exactly what they're doing every single round and everything's moving perfectly, when in reality, if you just listen to their comms and listen to the way they're talking to each other, they're only ever focused about the game of Counter-Strike and what's happening right in front of them. So I'm wondering if you feel like that's an issue. I guess I explained a lot of my thoughts there instead of asked you a question, but your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I think it is definitely something that specifically does plague our region. I think that is just, you know, us as like North Americans as well, we're a little more passionate. We're a little more into what we're doing and how we talk, how we communicate. I've personally noticed a lot of the EU teams I've either played against, seen at LAN, just, you know, players I've coached. For better or for worse, it is true. They are very more like, you know, in a way more robotic. You know, I mean, less emotion, more just do this, which can be good or bad, right? Like that you could leverage that in a good way, or that could be very bad. So, um, I do think that it is something that it just adds to the issues of things that we're facing. And to your point, I do think, you know, maybe that is not just necessarily a purely North American thing. Maybe that's just a a lower tier, or I guess in a way like an amateur team problem that you're going to face as well. Um, but yeah, if you can master that, if you can hone in on those skills as a player, you're going to put yourself at a huge advantage, and you're going to be very attractive for these professional teams to pick you up. Which is the thing that a lot of players don't understand is your attitude, your the way you're treating your teammates right now on your tier 3 team is directly influencing your um, chances of getting picked up by a tier 1 team or a tier 2 team. They're going to be asking people, they're going to be looking at who you are as a player. There's been so many people in our scene that have the skill to make it, but just they don't get the opportunities because everybody knows that they're either a hothead or they are, you know, they cry, they complain, and not no tier 1 team's going to pick you up because of that. So it's probably the most important skill to work on. You know, you could argue.
I think that's probably why Big D's never been picked up then, because Big D's a complaining hothead every
Yeah.
single game. But that's all right. That's why we became a caster, and it's life's a journey, and we're always growing. But yeah, I think I think that's really well said. A lot of people wonder why we don't have more orgs investing in professional Counter Strike. Well, let's have more professional
Yep.
Counter Strikers, and professional does not just mean you're really good at the game and then talk to everybody however you want. It means that
Mhm.
you are an all around professional. Okay, Kitty. All right, Colin, I got one last question for you here, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview with me. This is the same question I ask everybody, and we've been covering plenty of advice in general, but If you were to talk to your younger self right now and give yourself some advice, like 10-year-old Collin, like little kid Collin, what would be the advice you would give yourself? And this can be esports or content or life, whatever you want to do. Get on a soapbox and preach for the people for a moment.
Oh, for one, if I was talking to my younger self, I would just say, one, enjoy life while you are young, man. And I'm sure even older people out there would say the same thing to me. I've learned a lot. Do what you want to do in life. It doesn't matter what your interests are, what your passions, what your hobbies are. It is cliche for a reason. Find that enjoyment. If you're sitting there living a life you don't want to live, working a job you don't want to work towards, being around people you don't want to be around, it might be hard, it might be a struggle, but work towards every single day doing what you ultimately want to do with your life. There was moments in my own CS career where if I wasn't delusional enough to try to make this work, I would have given up and I'd be doing something else with my life right now. There's been so many hard moments, so many times where I probably shouldn't have made it, shouldn't have gotten over these walls, over these challenges that I was facing. But if you seriously can just sit there and every single day do something that furthers those goals, furthers those dreams, you will make it happen. I wish, and I was a kid, but I wish I would have understood that earlier so that I could start working even earlier in my life to maybe be somewhere different now. But you can't change the past. You can only work harder to change the future. And that all starts with clarity. If you don't have clarity with what you want to do and where you want to be, you're going to drift around in life. Look at, we're on a Counter-Strike interview podcast right now. Look at a round of Counter-Strike. If you're going out of CT spawn and you don't have a plan on what you're doing, you're going to get rolled. So have those plans, have that ambition, write them down somewhere so that you know, and you're not wandering through, you're not drifting. You got that set ambition that you're going to make happen. So biggest thing I could tell myself, but I think so far we've done a pretty decent job with that, and we're going to do better.
Wise beyond your years, sir.
I
All
appreciate it.
right, dude. Well, I mean, that's all I got for you. I want to make sure to give you go. You want to give yourself a shout out and do some plugs, tell people where to find you,
Yeah, so I mean, you can
like they
always look.
don't already know.
Yeah, yeah. So as always, I post videos on my YouTube, CoJoMo CS. You can find most of my other socials on there. Other than that, I mean, just keep making your dreams come true. Like I'm living my dream. I love teaching people and love doing what I do, but at the end of the day, figure out what you want to do and make it happen. And I'm always going to be that resource on YouTube. I'm always going to be that resource everywhere to help you work through whatever problems you're facing, specifically with Counter-Strike. I got you.
Appreciate it, Colin. Thank you so much for joining us, and that will be it.
Yes,
Oops,
sir.
stop
Thank you.
recording.